Night descends very gently, like a thin veil of mist settling over the last remaining sounds of a long day. The lights beyond the window soften, and within that quiet pause, you can hear your own breathing more clearly, steady, unhurried, and calm. Perhaps at this moment you are sitting alone or already lying down, allowing your thoughts to drift past like a tranquil stream. Allow yourself to relax a little more, without the need to hurry to understand or remember anything. Tonight, we simply look up at the sky together, not to search for immediate answers, but to feel a question that has accompanied humanity for a very long time. How vast is the galaxy in which we are living? Amid distant numbers and silent starlight, science can become a place of rest, a space where stories are told slowly, where curiosity is gently lulled, and where time itself seems to move more slowly, long enough for you to listen, and gradually drift into sleep. Scale introduction, the concept of galactic scale. There are evenings when the world seems to grow just small enough to fit within the familiarity of your own room. A chair, a gentle lamp, the sound of wind brushing softly against the window. In that moment, Earth appears vast. Oceans stretching across thousands of kilometers, continents that airplanes require many hours to cross. We are accustomed to the feeling of living on a gigantic planet, where even the distance between two cities can turn a journey into something long. Yet if you allow your imagination to take one small step further, only a very gentle one, you may begin to realize that such vastness is only the first layer of a much deeper story. Imagine the Earth shrinking, becoming so small that it rests like a grain of sand upon your palm. A round, blue grain of sand, carrying oceans, white clouds, and every memory of humanity. Beside it, the sun, the familiar star that brings light each morning, would no longer be a bright point in the sky. It would become a large grapefruit placed next to that grain of sand, quietly radiating warmth. The distance between the two would still be far enough that you would need to take a few slow steps to reach it. Even within this scaled-down vision, the space between them would remain a kind of stillness. The sun is often seen as the center of everything in human life. It awakens the day, warms the fields, and nourishes the seasons. Yet within the galaxy through which we are drifting, the sun is only an ordinary star. Not the largest, not the brightest. Simply somewhere in the middle, like a quiet person walking through a crowd without drawing particular attention. Around it are other stars, so many that the human mind struggles to hold the number. Hundreds of billions of stars share existence within this galaxy. 100 billion, perhaps 200, perhaps 400 billion. Spoken aloud, such numbers carry little meaning. They resemble whispers too vast for imagination to fully grasp. So perhaps we can try another way of seeing. Think of a long beach in the early morning. Before any footprints appear, grains of sand stretch endlessly, glimmering beneath soft light. You bend down and lift a small handful. Tiny particles slip through your fingers, too many to count. If each grain were a star, then our galaxy would be like a shoreline extending far beyond the horizon. And you, together with the sun, would be only one grain among countless others, not more remarkable, yet no less meaningful. What is surprising is that the distances between stars are not crowded at all. If each grapefruit represented a sun scattered across an entire continent, vast emptiness would lie between them. Space is not a place of congestion, but of prolonged quiet. Light requires years, sometimes thousands of years. to cross the distance between even the nearest neighbors. To speak about the size of a galaxy, humanity had to create a new unit of measurement. Kilometers became too small, like using a ruler to measure the ocean. So light itself became the measuring stick. Light travels so quickly that within a single blink it could circle Earth many times. And even at that speed, it still needs a full year to travel the distance called 1 light year. A single light year is so long that if you were to drive without rest, day and night continuing without pause, it would take millions of years to complete the journey. Just 1 light year. Our galaxy stretches across roughly 100,000 light years. This number does not need to be understood immediately. You may let it pass like the sound of distant waves. Simply imagine that light, the fastest thing the universe allows, must travel for 100,000 years to move from one edge to the other. During that span of time, civilizations on Earth would have risen and disappeared many times. Mountains would have formed and worn away. Oceans would have reshaped their shores. And somewhere within that immense expanse, the sun is moving. We often believe that we are standing still, a quiet room, a bed that does not tremble. Yet in truth, at this very moment, you are traveling with Earth as it circles the sun. And the sun, carrying all of us with it, is racing around the center of the galaxy at more than 800,000 kilometers per hour. The number may sound intense, yet the feeling is entirely different. There is no rushing wind, no shaking, only a quiet journey. Like a boat drifting across the ocean on a moonless night, when the water is so calm that you cannot even sense that you are moving. To complete a single orbit around the galaxy, the sun requires roughly 220 to 250 million years. One galactic year lasts far longer than the entire history of humanity many times over. The last time the sun passed through this position in its orbit, dinosaurs were still walking through ancient forests. The first birds had not yet appeared. The mountains we know today had not even formed. Since then, humanity has been born, learned to speak, built cities, written poetry, and sent probes beyond the solar system. Yet the galaxy has not completed another full turn. There is something very gentle in that thought. The worries of a long day, the things that once seemed immense, begin to grow smaller, not because they are unimportant, but because they exist within a far wider current of time, like the ticking of a clock inside a room while outside an entire ocean is breathing. If the galaxy were reduced to the size of a dinner plate resting on a table, then the entire solar system, from the sun to the most distant planets, would be as thin as a speck of dust upon its surface. And Earth, where you are lying down at this moment, would be smaller still, a point almost impossible to see. Yet from that tiny point, someone is listening to a story about the sky. And that makes the vastness no longer frightening. It becomes an open space, large enough to hold every question, every dream, and even rest itself. Right now, as you breathe in and then slowly breathe out, you are drifting with your planet along one spiral arm of the galaxy. There's nothing you need to do, nothing you need to control, simply allowing yourself to be carried along. A journey of enormous scale is unfolding, and within it, there is still room for quiet. And perhaps, within that movement so slow it cannot be felt, you may allow yourself to soften a little more, letting the current of the universe continue to carry you gently through the night. Seeing the Milky Way from Earth, the Milky Way as seen from Earth. And while we are being carried along a journey so long that it can't be felt, the sky above continues to keep a very old habit. Each night, it opens slowly, without urgency, as though waiting for someone to look up. In certain places on Earth, when the lights fade and the air becomes clear, you can see a faint band of light stretching across the sky. It is not a single star, nor a cloud. It resembles a thin veil of mist, or a quiet silver river flowing from one horizon to the other. Many people, seeing it for the first time, remain silent for a long while. Not because they understand it, but because of a strange familiarity, as if encountering something that had always existed in memory without ever being named. The eye cannot separate one star from another. Their light blends together into a soft, dim ribbon, gentle as breathing. This is how the galaxy appears to us, not as a map or a number, but as a feeling. Long before telescopes were built, before measurements or equations existed, human beings lay beneath that sky. Shepherds in open fields, sailors upon the ocean, travelers crossing deserts. They did not know they were looking at hundreds of billions of stars. They only knew that above them stretched a luminous road. In the lands of ancient Greece, people told stories that it was the milk of the goddess Hera, accidentally spilled when she turned away. A gentle story, shaped from the most familiar images humans knew to explain what could not yet be understood. Nourishment, life itself. In distant Eastern traditions, Chinese storytellers saw within that band of light a celestial river separating two lovers. Once each year, they could meet again when flocks of birds formed a bridge for a single night. A longing lifted into the sky so that everyone could see it. In the cold north, the Finnish imagined it as the pathway of migrating birds, the trace of wings crossing a long winter. And in India, it became a sacred river flowing through the heavens, reflecting the waters that move across the earth below. Different stories, born in places that never met one another, yet sharing the same feeling. Humanity sensed it was standing before something greater than itself. Perhaps what matters most is not that they misunderstood. It is that they looked for a very long time before understanding. The sky always arrives before explanation. Then, on a night at the beginning of the 17th century, a man named Galileo lifted a small telescope to his eye. No great sound marked that moment, no brilliant flash of light, only a slow gaze passing through a lens, and the familiar misty band began to separate. Points of light appeared, too many to count. Thousands, then tens of thousands of stars crowded into a small patch of sky. The glowing band was not cloud, not vapor. It was the light of countless distant suns standing quietly beside one another. That discovery did not take away the sky's old beauty. If anything changed, it was the deepening of feeling. Like realizing that the ocean is not only a surface reflecting moonlight, but also a place filled with unseen currents moving below. Even today, not everyone has the opportunity to see the galaxy as our ancestors once did. In many cities, artificial light lays a thin veil across the sky. Street lamps, glass windows, glowing signs, each gentle in its own way. Yet together, they soften the faintest stars. Many people grow up without ever seeing that luminous band clearly, knowing it only through photographs. If you leave the city, travel somewhere without lights, and allow your eyes to grow accustomed to darkness, something begins to happen. At first, only a few stars appear, then more, and afterward, very slowly, the galaxy reveals itself. Not suddenly, not overwhelming. It feels more like a memory returning little by little. You realize the sky is not empty. The darker spaces within that band of light hold their own stories. If you look closely, you may notice interruptions, dark lanes running through the glow. Long ago, people believed they were empty gaps. In truth, they are cold clouds of dust, dense enough that the light behind them cannot pass through. Clouds where new stars are quietly forming. Even darkness is nurturing light. There is something deeply human in that thought. That the quiet intervals in life are not always absences. Sometimes they are simply places where something is preparing to begin. When you look at the galaxy, you are also looking backward through time. The light reaching your eyes may have left its star thousands, even tens of thousands of years ago. When it began its journey, perhaps no cities yet existed. Fairy tales had not been told. The languages we speak today had not yet been born. The night sky is always the past arriving. And in the moment you see it, that past touches the present very gently. Some people say that seeing the galaxy clearly for the first time leaves them slightly breathless, not from fear, but from a sense of openness, like standing at the edge of the ocean for the first time and realizing the horizon has no ending. Yet after the first surprise, what often follows is a deeper calm. Because if we are living within a river of light so vast, then even the most tiring days are only small ripples. The galaxy remains there every night, whether we look or not. It moves with Earth, with the sun, with every sleep unfolding beneath quiet roofs. And perhaps, as you close your eyes now, that luminous band is still stretching overhead, drifting across the sky in silence. A road that does not ask you to walk, only to listen. Structure of the galaxy. The structure of the galaxy. And while that band of light continues to stretch quietly across the sky, like a road without a beginning or an ending, perhaps you have wondered what it truly looks like if one could step outside and observe it from afar. From the ground, we see only a pale river of light. Yet within it, where we are drifting without ever noticing, the galaxy holds the shape of something far more gentle in motion. A vast spiral, opening outward like ripples spreading across still water when a leaf falls upon a quiet lake. If you could look at it from the outside, you would see luminous arms curving around a radiant center. Not rigid lines drawn in certainty, but soft streams of light, twisting like smoke dissolving into the wind. They are called spiral arms, though perhaps they resemble rivers more than anything else. Currents carrying stars, dust, and gas, flowing around the galaxy in a rhythm so slow that, to us, it feels almost unmoving. We are inside one of those currents. The sun, carrying Earth and every human story with it, rests within a smaller and quieter arm compared to the more crowded regions elsewhere. It has been named after the familiar constellation Orion, though the name is only a way of remembering. In truth, it is something like a side road, a modest branch lying between two far greater streams, like a quiet street set between two brightly lit avenues. Closer toward the galactic center lies a crowded region where light grows denser, where clouds of gas and clusters of stars gather together like ancient markets that never sleep. Farther outward are more spacious regions, where the distances between stars widen like open fields at dawn. And we are somewhere in between, not too busy, not too alone. Perhaps that is why our sky is dark enough to reveal the spaces between stars. These spiral arms are not fixed rows of stars. They are not like the rigid spokes of a turning wheel. If they were, after billions of years, they would have wound tightly upon themselves and disappeared. Instead, they resemble something far more familiar, a slow congestion along a long road. Imagine driving along a highway at the end of the day. Ahead, traffic begins to slow, not because of any visible obstacle, but because of an invisible wave causing everyone to reduce speed together. You enter that dense region, pause for a moment, and then continue onward. Cars behind you move into it as well, and the traffic remains, even though individual vehicles constantly leave. The spiral arms of the galaxy are much the same. Stars do not remain within an arm forever. They enter, drift through, and eventually move beyond it. Yet the dense region itself persists, like a slow breath within a vast structure. When gas and dust pass into these crowded zones, they are compressed. And within that compression, something begins. New stars are born. In such places, young light appears, blue and hot, burning brightly for only a brief time compared to the age of the galaxy. They are like small flames newly lit inside a dark room. Clouds of gas collapse inward, turning slowly, and in the absolute silence of space, nuclear reactions begin. A new sun opens its eyes. You would hear no sound at all, no explosion, no echo, only light appearing. These star-forming regions lie scattered along the arms. Seen from afar, they resemble strings of lanterns hung during a quiet festival night, clusters brightening and slowly fading with time. Massive stars live quickly and brilliantly, then disappear after only a few million years, a blink of an eye to a galaxy. Yet during their brief existence, they trace the currents, revealing the shapes of the spiral arms themselves. Farther still, the larger arms carry names familiar to sky watchers. Some stretch toward Sagittarius, where light gathers densely like a city seen from above. Others extend toward Perseus, farther from the center, where young star clusters continue forming within cold clouds. And farther again, near the galaxy's outer edge, lie fainter arms, difficult to see, quietly existing like roads seldom traveled. They are not walls that divide. They are waves, like ripples spreading across a lake when wind passes over the surface. Matter moves through them while the larger pattern remains. Spiral arms do not hold stars captive. They slow them only slightly, just enough for new beginnings to take shape. There is something quietly strange in that thought. Our sun has passed through many such regions during its journey across billions of years. At times, it has entered denser environments. At others, it has drifted through wider emptiness. And throughout that long passage, Earth has continued to turn. Oceans have risen and fallen, and life has kept changing its form. Human stories have been written while the galaxy moves slowly in the background. If you could stand outside the galaxy, you might see all those currents at once. Luminous arms curling around the center like rivers meeting within a great whirlpool. But from within, we see only fragments. A cluster of stars here, a glowing cloud there, like standing inside a forest and trying to imagine the shape of the entire woodland. Perhaps that limitation itself carries a certain gentleness. We do not need to see everything in order to belong. At this very moment, as you lie still, your planet continues moving through the Orion arm, drifting between regions of light and shadow. Clouds of gas, thousands of light years away, are slowly collapsing, preparing to give birth to stars humanity has never known. Other stars are quietly growing old, releasing the last of their light. The river continues to flow, not quickly, not loudly, and you are within it, carried along with hundreds of billions of other suns, through a soft curve of the galaxy, a place where the greatest movements unfold in complete quiet. galactic center and black hole, the galactic center. And while that river of light continues to bend gently through its soft spiral arms, there is a place toward which every path seems to lead. Though from our distance, it remains hidden from view. If you look toward the center of the galaxy on a truly dark night, your eyes will not find a great lamp burning brightly. Instead, you will see dense regions where light is swallowed by deep, cold clouds of dust, like a forest grown too thick for the morning light to pass through. We cannot see that center with the naked eye. And perhaps because of that, it becomes gentler within the imagination. There, tens of thousands of light years away, exists a point that almost emits no light at all, yet holds a pull greater than millions of suns combined. It is called by a name that carries the sound of an ancient bow drawn tight. Sagittarius, a star. A small symbol for something immense in its presence. Not a flame, not a shining sphere, but a darkness so deep that even light cannot return. The thought sometimes leads people to imagine violence, yet the place itself is not like the storms imagination often creates. It is not a furious whirlpool devouring everything nearby. If you could stand at a safe distance, very far away, you would simply see stars moving around an invisible emptiness, like leaves circling a quiet center held gently by the wind. For many years, observers saw only those strange orbits. Stars near the center moved faster than anything previously known. They rushed along narrow arcs, returning to familiar positions after years of patient watching. No one could see what was pulling them inward, yet the evidence was clear. Like watching ripples on water and knowing there is a current beneath. Some people devoted entire lifetimes to studying that motion. Night after night, they followed tiny points of light, measuring the smallest changes. Eventually, the invisible revealed itself. An enormous mass lay at the center, small enough to evade direct sight, yet powerful enough to hold stars within its turning embrace. The work would later be recognized with the world's highest honors. But perhaps the most important moments remained the quiet hours before observation screens, when someone realized they were witnessing the sign of something never before directly reached. A supermassive black hole. The word hole sometimes suggests an open abyss, but the image is not entirely accurate. It is closer to a boundary, a region where, once you move near enough, the path back disappears. That boundary is called the event horizon. Imagine standing beside a wide river in the evening. Near the shore, the water moves slowly, gentle enough that you could pull your foot away if you stepped too far. But farther toward the middle, the current grows stronger. There is a point beyond which you could no longer swim back, no matter how hard you tried. Not because a wall blocks you, but because the flow itself has become too deep. Light behaves in much the same way. Outside that boundary, light can still depart, carrying the story of where it has been. But once it crosses, every path leads inward. No signal returns to continue the story. Surrounding that dark region is a faint ring of light, where gas and dust circle before disappearing. Matter wandering through the galaxy, when drawn too close, begins to accelerate. It heats, glows, and forms a thin disk like water spiraling toward a drain. That light is not a cry for help. It feels more like a long farewell, as matter gently releases the shape it once held. And even though the galactic center lies so far away, humanity still found a way to see it. Not with a single telescope, but with the entire Earth. Observatories placed across the planet, from dry deserts to cold mountain summits, observed the same small point in the sky together. Combined, they formed an eye as large as the world itself. A patient effort, almost like many people listening together for a faint heartbeat within a vast room. At last, the first image appeared. Not a perfect circle, not as clear as a drawing, only a dim halo surrounding a profound darkness. Yet for many, it was the first time humanity directly saw the trace of what had always existed at the center of its journey. A hidden heart, not beating in any familiar way, not making a sound, yet holding the entire galaxy steady through billions of years of motion. There is something deeply quiet in that thought. A center that does not require light to be known. A presence that does not need to reveal itself. Every spiral arm, every star, even our sun, moves around it in a rhythm so slow, it feels almost meditative. At this very moment, as you lie still and your breathing grows deeper, your planet continues that orbit. Stars near the center rush quickly along their paths, while we, farther away, drift gently like a leaf at the edge of a river. The galaxy does not need to hurry. Neither does its center. A heartbeat that cannot be heard, yet is always present. A darkness that is not frightening, only deep. And far from that place, within a small branch called Orion, someone is closing their eyes, carried along by the same motion, through vast space, through a quiet night, held within the slow embrace of a hidden heart that humanity has only just begun to learn how to listen to. Interstellar medium and dark matter, the unseen things. And while the galactic center continues to hold its quiet rhythm of rotation, not everything important resides where light is brightest or mass is greatest. Some things exist between the stars, so vast that unless we pause long enough to consider them, we might believe that space is entirely empty. But the space between stars has never truly been empty. If you could drift slowly through it, slowly enough to notice, you would realize that you are moving through an extremely thin mist, invisible to the naked eye, impossible to touch with your hands, yet still present, like the air in a dark room after everyone has fallen asleep. Atoms of gas wander gently there, scattered across immense distances. Hydrogen, helium, and traces of elements once forged inside the hearts of stars that died long ago. They do not hurry. They hold no fixed shape, like the breathing of the galaxy itself, spreading outward and gathering again, quietly moving along gravitational waves that no one can hear. In some places, the gas becomes denser. Tiny grains of dust, smaller than smoke caught in morning sunlight, begin to gather together. These particles were formed from the ashes of ancient stars, carbon, silicon, iron, fragments of material memory drifting across millions of years. When light passes through them, it softens and changes color, like evening sunlight filtering through a thin curtain. It is this dust that hides the galactic center from our eyes. And yet, it is also where new stories begin. There are regions within the galaxy where gas and dust collect into enormous clouds. They are not bright, not loud. They are so cold that light seems almost asleep within them. From a distance, they appear as soft, dark spaces between the stars. But inside, motion continues, slow and patient. These molecular clouds resemble oceans without waves. Gentle pressure draws matter closer together. Temperatures fall, and somewhere deep within, a small region begins to contract just a little more. No one witnesses the first moment. There is no signal announcing it. Only gravity, continuing its familiar work. A new star is preparing to be born. In darkness, light is being formed. There is something comforting in that thought, that the places which appear most empty may also hold the greatest potential. That silence does not always mean an ending. Sometimes it is simply rest before a beginning. A galaxy is not only the bright points we see from Earth. Most of its story unfolds within far subtler regions. Vast nebulae spread like colored smoke, reflecting the light of young stars. Other places are so dark they seem almost invisible, yet contain enough material to create thousands of future suns. Amid all these movements, the stars continue their orbit around the center. Our sun does the same, continuing its journey, lasting hundreds of millions of years. And then humanity began to notice something strange. When astronomers measured the motion of stars near the outer edges of galaxies, those stars did not slow as expected. Intuition suggested that stars farther from the center should move more slowly, like leaves near the outer edge of a whirlpool. Yet they continued moving quickly, nearly matching the speed of stars closer in. Like a procession of cars circling a city where every vehicle, whether near or far from the center, maintains the same pace. It did not make sense if only visible matter was counted. Somewhere there had to be additional mass. Something was holding the galaxy together, like an invisible hand resting around the entire spiral of light. An astronomer named Vera Rubin spent many years studying those motions, not with urgency, but with rare patience. She observed galaxy after galaxy, rotation curve after rotation curve, each small deviation carefully measured. And the longer she looked, the clearer the story became. More existed than light alone could reveal. Galaxies appeared to be surrounded by a vast layer of matter that did not shine. It does not reflect. It does not absorb. It leaves no direct trace. It reveals itself only through gravity. It is called dark matter. The name sounds mysterious, yet it is simply a humble admission. We do not yet know what it is. Without it, the stars at the galaxy's edge would have long since drifted away, escaping their orbits. The spiral arms would have dissolved like smoke in the wind. But they remain, still turning, still holding their gentle shapes across billions of years, like a glass bowl supported by hands we cannot see. Perhaps what makes this thought gentle is how familiar it feels to human life. Many of the most important things cannot be seen. Trust, memory, affection. The forces that hold a family, a friendship, or a life together rarely possess a clear form. The galaxy is much the same. Much of what allows it to endure exists beyond the light. At this very moment, you are drifting through a region of space filled with gas thinner than any emptiness found on Earth. Cold clouds thousands of light years away are quietly collapsing. Young stars are forming without names, yet given to them. And surrounding everything, an invisible ocean holds every motion within its embrace. No one can see it, yet everything feels it, like the breath you carry right now. No need to see it to know that it is there. The galaxy continues to turn within the arms of that unseen presence, slowly and patiently. And far from the center, within a small and quiet branch, your planet continues along the same current, held not only by what shines, but also by what quietly exists within the gentle darkness of the universe. Measuring the galaxy, humans measuring the immeasurable. And when thinking about the things that cannot be seen, yet still hold a galaxy together, humanity seems to have learned a habit of its own. We do not stop before darkness. We sit beside it, patiently, and begins searching for ways to measure what appears to have no suitable ruler at all. Not through haste, but through small steps, like someone feeling their way through an unlit room, resting a hand against the wall to understand the shape of the space. From early on, there were those who tried to imagine how large the galaxy might be simply by counting the stars they could see. During the long nights of the 18th century, when the sky remained deeply dark and city lights had not yet softened the stars, a man named William Herschel spent hours beside his telescope. He slowly turned the instrument across the different regions of the sky, counting each point of light appearing within the eyepiece. There was no prepared map, no answer waiting ahead, only the belief that if he counted long enough, the shape of the galaxy would quietly reveal itself. He imagined standing within a forest and trying to measure its size by noticing which direction held more trees. Where stars appeared denser, he thought, the galaxy must extend farther. A simple idea, almost childlike, yet deeply human. Often the first steps are like that, imperfect but patient. Later, people realized that dust between the stars had deceived that view, hiding deeper regions beyond sight. Yet those nights spent counting stars still hold a particular beauty. One person looking upward and believing that a small human mind could reach toward a structure greater than imagination itself. Then another question emerged. If we cannot travel to the stars, how can we know how far away they are? Humanity began to observe the smallest movements of light. As Earth travels around the sun, our viewpoint shifts slightly, like tilting your head left and right to look at a distant object. The nearest stars seem to move subtly against the background sky, a change so small that it required years to notice. The effect resembles holding a finger before your face and closing each eye in turn. The finger appears to move, even though it remains still. From that tiny motion, distance began to reveal itself. It was called parallax, a simple name for a very familiar gesture of the eyes. But when distances became too great, that motion disappeared. More distant stars no longer revealed their positions in this way. And once again, humanity needed another path. In a quiet office at the beginning of the 20th century, a woman named Henrietta Leavitt studied photographic plates of the sky. Her work was not direct observation through a telescope, but measuring small changes in the brightness of stars. Some stars brightened and dimmed with steady regularity, like breathing. She noticed something subtle. Stars that pulsed more slowly were brighter, like larger lanterns that take longer to sway in the wind. From that relationship, light itself became a ruler. If the true brightness of a star was known, its distance could be understood by how faint it appeared. A rhythm of light became distance. There were no drums or fireworks when that discovery appeared, only numbers written quietly on paper. Yet from that moment, the galaxy expanded within human understanding. Distances once thought near stretched far beyond expectation. To describe such journeys, humanity had to abandon familiar units. Kilometers became too small, like measuring an ocean with drops of water. And so the light year was born. Light, the fastest messenger we know, became the carrier of distance. A light year is the distance light travels in a single year. It sounds simple, yet if you pause to consider it, light must travel without rest for 12 continuous months to complete that journey. And the galaxy stretches across hundreds of thousands of such distances. These numbers do not need to be fully understood. They are like distant waves. It is enough to know that the space between stars is not merely cold emptiness, but time itself lying between them. Later, humanity no longer relied only on eyes or single telescopes. A small spacecraft named Gaia was sent into space, quietly orbiting the sun. From there, it observes billions of stars, measuring their positions with almost endless patience. Movements as small as 1,000th of a degree are recorded, little by little, like someone redrawing an entire forest by walking past every single leaf. Gradually, a map emerged. Not a map of land or ocean, but a map of light. Even regions hidden by dust, invisible to ordinary sight, began to be understood in another way. Hydrogen atoms, the most common substance in the galaxy, emit an extremely faint signal at a special wavelength. A whisper measuring 21 centimeters, passing through dark dust that visible light cannot cross. By listening to that frequency, humanity traced spiral arms that once existed only in imagination. Like learning the shape of a room through the echo of one's own voice. None of this was a victory over the universe. It resembles a conversation more than a conquest. The galaxy has not been conquered. It has only been slowly understood, piece by piece, as humanity learned how to ask the right questions. Perhaps the most beautiful part is that every measurement began with humility. One person counting stars, another watching the rhythm of light, a quiet spacecraft recording the positions of distant points, small gestures directed toward the infinite. At this very moment, as you lie still and your breathing deepens, starlight continues its journey, carrying distance and carrying time. Measurements continue somewhere. Within observatories and distant spacecraft, humanity is still learning how to measure what cannot truly be measured. Not in order to control it, only to understand where we are within that vast river, and to realize that sometimes knowing one's place within it is enough to feel at peace. Galactic neighborhood plus evolution plus future. And as humanity slowly learned to place markers within that vast expanse, something else also became clearer. Our galaxy is not drifting alone. It is not an isolated island within a dark ocean. If you could step farther back, retreat a little more within imagination, you would see other lights surrounding it. Quiet as distant homes scattered across a nighttime plain. There are smaller galaxies traveling alongside us, like companions who do not speak loudly. They orbit the Milky Way along long, slow paths that sometimes span billions of years. Some of them are faint, only sparse gatherings of stars difficult to notice. Others, however, are bright enough to be seen with the naked eye by observers in the southern hemisphere. If you have ever stood beneath the deep darkness of a southern sky, where artificial lights are rare and the wind carries the scent of distant seas, you may have noticed two small luminous patches suspended near the horizon. They do not resemble stars. They do not flicker. They appear instead as soft clouds of light, gentle as breath upon cold glass. They are known as the Magellanic Clouds. For centuries, sailors crossing wide oceans saw them without realizing they were looking at two separate galaxies. They drift around us like leaves carried along a broad current, sometimes stretched by the gravitational pull of the Milky Way itself. Long streams of gas trail behind them like ripples left by a boat moving quietly across a lake. There is no urgency in that motion, only orbits longer than imagination easily holds. Farther still, if you continue looking outward, another light is slowly approaching. Not fast in any way we could feel, yet certain enough that observers know the distance between our galaxies is gradually shrinking. It is the Andromeda Galaxy, our largest neighbor. On truly dark nights in high mountains, Andromeda appears as a faint streak of light, almost unnoticed unless you know where to look. Yet the light reaching your eyes left it more than 2 million years ago. When that journey began, distant human ancestors had not yet learned to use fire. Between us lies immense emptiness, yet gravity has already begun its patient work. The two galaxies are moving toward one another, not like two vehicles rushing together along a highway. No violent collision waits ahead. In the universe, even the greatest events unfold with remarkable patience. It will take roughly 4 to 5 billion years before the two galaxies begin to merge. A span of time so long that our sun may by then have changed completely. Earth's oceans may no longer resemble those of today. Human stories, if they continue to exist in any form, would be transformed beyond recognition. But galaxies do not hurry. When that meeting comes, stars will pass through one another with almost no direct collisions. The distances between them are too vast, like two banks of mist drifting together in early morning, blending and reshaping as they pass. Spiral arms will stretch outward, curve, and dissolve into new rivers of light. Perhaps the sky at that time will grow brighter. Long arcs of stars may span across it like luminous rainbows. New regions of star formation may awaken as gas becomes compressed. Yet all of this will unfold across hundreds of millions of years, so slowly that for any living creature, it would feel almost like stillness. At the centers of both galaxies, the supermassive black holes will also begin to approach one another. Two hidden hearts, each once guiding its own slow rhythm, will begin a long dance. They will circle each other, losing energy through ripples in the very fabric of space. And then, far in the future, they will merge into a single new center. There will be no sound, no flash visible to human eyes, only a deep change within the structure of the universe itself. If anyone were close enough to sense it, they might feel space tremble like the surface of a lake when a stone sinks beneath it. Yet even that event is only a small part of a larger picture. Because the Milky Way, Andromeda, and the smaller galaxies traveling with us are only a family within a far wider region of space. That place is called the local group, a gathering of galaxies bound together by gentle gravity, like islands resting near one another within a slow ocean current. And if you step back even farther, you would see galaxy groups connected by long strands of matter, forming an immense network. Not walls, not straight lines, but flowing filaments of light stretching across hundreds of millions of light years, like roots spreading quietly beneath the soil. A cosmic web. The vast spaces between them are so empty that almost nothing exists there. And along those strands, galaxies gather like drops of dew resting upon a spider's web in the early morning. The thought can make everything feel very small, yet also very peaceful. Because if all galaxies are moving within that network, then our journey is not a wandering without direction. It is part of a greater current, where every motion has its place. Right now, as you breathe in slowly, the Milky Way continues to turn. Smaller galaxies continue drifting around it. Andromeda continues to draw closer, little by little, within the deep darkness. And beyond them, the cosmic web stretches across distances almost impossible to imagine. Nothing needs to happen immediately. Everything moves according to its own time. And within all those motions lasting billions of years, there exists a very small moment, the one in which you are lying still, carried gently along with this immense journey, held within the quiet calm of a future arriving so slowly it is almost impossible to notice. Cosmic philosophy and human meaning, a philosophical conclusion. And as the image of galaxies slowly moving toward one another within that deep darkness begins to settle, a very gentle question starts to appear. Not a question about distance or velocity or the immense numbers we have just traveled through, but something far closer. Where did all of this begin? If we travel backward through time far enough, farther than the Milky Way's present soft spiral form, farther than the oldest stars quietly burning within its faint halo. The universe then was almost empty in a way difficult to imagine. There were no galaxies, no planets, no light from individual suns, only a hot, dense ocean expanding outward, where the first particles of matter drifted like vapor on a winter morning. During that long silence lasting hundreds of millions of years, very small differences appeared. Regions only slightly denser than others began to draw matter toward themselves. Gravity, patient as a hand that never grows tired, gathered each particle together. The first clouds formed. No one witnessed them. There was no sound, only movements so slow that if you had stood nearby, nothing would have seemed to happen at all. From those clouds, the first stars were born. They were far larger than the familiar stars of today. They burned intensely, lived quickly, and vanished in enormous explosions. Yet what mattered most was not their light. It was what they left behind. In the beginning, the universe contained only simple elements. Hydrogen, helium, the most basic building blocks. They were not enough to form oceans, or stone, or living bodies. Only when those first stars ignited and faded did heavier elements appear. Carbon formed within the burning cores of ancient suns. Oxygen emerged through reactions lasting millions of years. Iron, the element flowing in your blood at this very moment, was created during the final moments of massive stars before they collapsed. When those stars reached the end of their lives, they did not disappear quietly. Sometimes gently, sometimes violently, they opened outward. Matter that once belonged to them drifted into space, joining new clouds yet to form. The Milky Way gradually emerged from that repetition. Fragments gathered. Smaller galaxies collided and dissolved into one another. Streams of gas cooled and turned into the wide disk we now call home. Within the ancient halo of the galaxy remain witnesses of that time. Stars billions of years older than the sun, still burning slowly like memories that never left. Much later, in a quiet corner of a small spiral arm, another cloud of gas began to collapse. At first, there was nothing remarkable about it. Only dust and gas drifting in silence. But within it were elements inherited from countless earlier generations of stars. Carbon from distant explosions, oxygen from cooled stellar cores, iron from brilliant deaths that occurred long before Earth existed. That cloud became the sun. The remaining material circled around it, colliding, gathering together, heating and slowly cooling. One small fragment of that matter became Earth. Water appeared, stone cooled, and after a very long time, the most unusual thing happened. Matter began to recognize itself. Atoms that once drifted through dark space joined into molecules. Molecules became cells. Cells became living beings, and along paths too long to fully tell. One day someone lay beneath the night sky and looked up at the Milky Way. Perhaps that someone is you. The remarkable part is that the atoms allowing you to do this did not come from anywhere unfamiliar. The carbon within every cell of your body once rested inside the core of a star that has long faded. The oxygen you are breathing was released when an ancient sun shed its outer layers. The iron in your blood was forged under immense pressure in a young universe. You do not only live within the galaxy, you are made from it. This thought does not need to overwhelm you. It can feel very gentle if allowed to arrive slowly, like realizing you belong to a place that existed long before you arrived. Perhaps the most beautiful thing is not the size of the galaxy, nor the number of stars we try to count. It is that the matter of the universe, after billions of years of drifting, arranged itself into a form capable of thinking, remembering, and feeling the quiet of an evening. In this moment, as you listen, small electrical signals move through your brain. Ions open and close. Thoughts appear and fade. From a very distant perspective, this is the galaxy looking back at itself. Not through telescopes, but through awareness. Not through light, but through gentle curiosity. There is something deeply reassuring in that idea, that you do not stand outside the universe trying to understand it. You are part of that understanding itself. A small moment in which matter has learned to ask where it is. And just as stars are born and quietly complete their journeys, your day is also coming to a close. You do not need to carry every answer with you. The galaxy continues to turn whether you sleep or remain awake. Spiral arms continue drifting. Distant galaxies continue moving toward one another across rhythms lasting billions of years. Nothing asks you to keep thinking right now. If your eyes are growing heavy, allow them to close. Let your breathing slow a little more. Imagine yourself lying upon a small planet, orbiting an ordinary star within a quiet spiral arm of a vast galaxy. Everything is all right. The universe is not in a hurry, and you do not need to hurry either. I wish you a peaceful night. Let the stars above and the stardust within you gently hold you as sleep arrives.